Welcome to Once Upon a Coin, documenting the ongoing history of blockchain and cryptocurrency. And as always, I'm your storyteller, Jason Cassidy. Today's story has us continuing our journey through the early days of crypto when only a select few were involved. When it came to the blockchain, the world was still a very quiet place. But that didn't mean that big things weren't happening, because they were. Things so big that they would soon force the entire planet to start paying attention to what would become a true financial revolution. This is the story of crypto in 2010.
Sun cast a shadow, a digital line is coming over the mountain and over your mind. Double down your Bitcoin, hang on for the ride. We're moving into the future, one block at a time. We're moving into the future, one block at a time.
For many, this is the year that Bitcoin started to spread its wings and take flight as some major events took place. Events that helped put crypto on the radar for people that were outside of the fringe cypherpunk community that originally formed around Bitcoin. In the previous year of 2009, Bitcoin was launched and enjoyed some historic moments, like the first recorded Bitcoin transaction that took place between Hal Finney and Satoshi Nakamoto himself when he sent him 10 Bitcoin. And then near the end of the year, Bitcoin saw its first use as a medium of exchange, and this helped the nascent cryptocurrency establish an exchange rate against fiat currencies. Bitcoin now had value. Sure, Bitcoin wasn't worth much of anything yet, but that wasn't the point here. What mattered was that now people could assign a value to it, in a world that was still completely dominated by the US dollar as the world's reserve currency. So the year 2010 was naturally expected to build upon this progress by ushering in a new level of success for Bitcoin. And did it ever. The action came fast and furious because as soon as the calendar flipped over to 2010, history was about to be made. On January 15th, a member of the legendary Bitcoin talk forum named DW Dollar announced his intentions to create the first ever Bitcoin exchange. And true to his word, just 2 months later on March 17th, BitcoinMarket.com went live for the very first time, giving everyone a chance to buy and sell Bitcoin. The exchange rate was around 0.003 USD per Bitcoin, which meant for $1 you could buy 333 Bitcoin. And that meant that one Bitcoin was worth basically around a third of one US penny. For context, 333 Bitcoin today would cost you 14 million US dollars. So suffice to say that if you were around during this time, you were getting a deal of not just the year, not of the decade, not of the century, you were getting a deal of the millennium. Since the exchange had no banking relations set up and thus no way to move US dollars in and out of its operations, the method of people exchanging Bitcoin for US dollars was actually done via PayPal. This solution was short-lived though, and thus would go on to spur the creation of more robust exchanges that could tie in proper banking connections. This truly was a major development because it meant that Bitcoin now had a constant exchange rate, even if it wasn't exactly practical in its implementation. People could now talk about Bitcoin as a real currency, but more importantly, they could value their stack of coins. This naturally led to more speculation about the future price and application of the currency, and that just led to more awareness. So it may come as no surprise to learn that in May, someone out there decided to use Bitcoin to pay for goods and services instead of the good old US dollar. And that person was Laszlo Hanyecz, who became a cryptocurrency legend by virtue of, well, having some cravings for pizza. On May 18th, 2010, Laszlo posted on the Bitcoin Talk forum putting up a 10,000 Bitcoin bounty to whomever could deliver him 2 large pizzas. He didn't care if they made the pizza themselves or ordered it for him. As long as Laszlo received 2 piping hot large pizzas, he would give them 10,000 Bitcoin. Well, guess what? Someone did. Because on May 22nd, Laszlo paid Jeremy Sturdivant 10,000 Bitcoin for making 2 large pizzas from Papa John's appear on his doorstep. This is the first recorded commercial transaction for Bitcoin, and it's now enshrined in crypto lore. So much so that May 22nd is now known as Bitcoin Pizza Day across the world. Now, if you're stuck on the thought of just how much money Laszlo would have today if he didn't spend all that Bitcoin on pizza, I want you to consider the following. Without this historic transaction taking place, Bitcoin may never gotten its start as a functional currency that anyone could use to purchase everyday items. After all, Bitcoin would have no real value if people weren't using it to purchase anything. Someone had to take that first leap of faith, and considering all it took was 2 large pizzas, we can all thank Laszlo for being the person that made that happen.
How'd you get this idea to trade Bitcoin for pizza?
I just honestly thought it would be really cool if I could say, hey, I just traded this, open source internet money for a real world good. And I thought, what better thing than food? Food is a basic necessity. And, pizza, every geek understands pizza.
So how did you actually buy a pizza?
I just posted on the forum. I said, if anybody's interested, I'm offering 10,000 Bitcoins in exchange for some pizza. And somebody there said, hey, I'll take you up on that offer. So I sent him the 10,000 Bitcoin. I said, okay, here it is. I'm waiting for my pizza. And, he phoned it in, he paid with his credit card, and the pizza showed up at my door.
These developments were big news at the time in an industry that was still pretty much considered to be a hobby. And thus, this news traveled fast because, frankly, it didn't have very far to go before everyone knew about it. And this led to some even bigger events taking place that helped Bitcoin gain more attention and legitimacy. On July 10th, the popular social news site Slashdot released a story that centered around Bitcoin. This greatly helped raise the awareness around the currency, given that Slashdot labeled itself as news for nerds. It's fair to say here that the target audience got the message, and that helped trigger a whole new wave of adoption from curious onlookers. That Slashdot article would prove to be critically important to the history of Bitcoin, because a certain entrepreneur out there read it, inspiring them to do something that would change the fate of cryptocurrency forever. On July 18th, the now infamous Mt. Gox Exchange was launched by crypto entrepreneur Jed McCaleb. He had the initial idea of using the site as an online exchange to buy and sell Magic the Gathering trading cards, which still to this day is the most popular CCG of all time. McCaleb ran the site in this fashion for a while, but quickly realized that it wasn't going to be lucrative enough to continue down that path. But once he had heard about the Slashdot article talking about Bitcoin, he now knew he had the right application for his site. And thus, this is where we get the Mt. Gox name from, Magic the Gathering Online Exchange. On its first day of operation, Mt. Gox traded about 20 Bitcoin, going for around 5 cents USD each. If you've been paying close attention, then you've noticed that the value of Bitcoin had risen precipitously, going from 1/3 of a cent US all the way up to 5 cents US for a single coin. Clearly, people were hearing about Bitcoin and started to take it seriously. Serious enough to pay considerably more to get their hands on some. Yes, Bitcoin was still incredibly affordable, but the trend was now clear. It was a lot more than just a hobbyist creation at this point. It was being used as a tradable currency. Seemingly everything that could go right for Bitcoin was now taking place. It had exchanges with real banking relationships, allowing it to flourish. Mainstream news sites were discussing it, and slowly but surely people were using it as a currency to transact with. Now, if this feels like I'm setting you up for some sudden bad news, that's because I am. Bitcoin was about to encounter its first real adversity, and it wasn't a minor hiccup, it was a major one. On August 15th, a hacker discovered an exploit in the Bitcoin source code, allowing them to generate 184 billion Bitcoin. Now, this is kind of a problem given that Bitcoin has a hard cap of 21 million coins that'll ever be created. An oversight in Bitcoin's transaction verification system was the cause of the disaster. To break down the problem, when summing the transaction output values, the code failed to handle overflows above the maximum total quantity of 21 million. This allowed the hacker to basically create as much Bitcoin as they wanted to. It was Jeff Garzik who discovered the chink in Bitcoin's armor and thus named the event the Bitcoin Overflow bug. Thankfully, the bad times didn't last too long though. Within hours of the hack taking place, Satoshi and some other developers came together to create a patch to fix the issue. A soft fork on the Bitcoin blockchain happened, resetting the chain to a state of time before the hacker's block of nonsense took place. This event did nothing good for Bitcoin and understandably hurt its reputation in the short term. However, it's worth mentioning that to this very day, that was the only major security flaw that was found and exploited in Bitcoin's history. Considering just how long Bitcoin's been around for now, that's a mighty impressive statement. Hey, and speaking of Satoshi, what was he up to during the year of 2010? Well, outside of putting out the occasional fire from the coding perspective, Satoshi was busy on the Bitcoin Talk forum, speaking with people, helping educate them around Bitcoin's power and the potential it held for the future. This made it all the more mysterious when on December 12th, Satoshi made his final post on the Bitcoin Talk forum, never to be seen again. Satoshi left us with a message around the importance of improving Bitcoin's resilience around denial of service attacks. He envisioned a future where the network would be seen as a major threat to established financial interests, and thus they'd be incentivized to try and take the network down any way they could. No one really knows outside of Satoshi himself why he decided that now was the right time to leave. Perhaps he felt that the technology had grown so big, so fast, that it no longer needed him to help shepherd it along. Or perhaps he saw the price of one Bitcoin at the end of 2010 and felt that that was a clear indication that everyone was taking his creation seriously. Bitcoin ended the year of 2010 at a price of around 30 cents USD per coin, which meant that the currency went on a real tear over the summer and fall months. Despite the setback in the summer with the hack, Bitcoin was clearly now moving forward again, and it was waiting for no one. Overall, 2010 was an incredibly successful year for Bitcoin, and it helped set the stage for what was truly a surreal 2011. And that's what we're going to be looking at next, so be sure to check out the story of crypto in 2011. I hope you enjoyed today's stroll down memory lane. Until next time, have fun and enjoy life, my friends. I'll be back soon with another incredible story to tell you.